Welcome to Better Mojo, Better Life, the podcast that explores the secrets of optimizing intimacy, mastering sexual wellness, balancing hormones, and keeping your vital mojo alive. Hosted by Tim Sawyer and Melissa Vinci, we bring you expert insights, candid conversations, and actionable tips to empower both men and women on their journey to a more fulfilling and vibrant life. Tune in, turn up the mojo, and let's embark on this exciting adventure together. Get ready for Better Mojo, Better Life. Brought to you by Pellecome, the leading provider in bioidentical hormone treatment. Pellecome is setting the standard with the RE3 advanced pellet delivery system for men and women, and the one-of-a-kind patented medical device to insert BHRT pellets. Become a part of the Pellecome revolution. And RegenMax, the only worldwide patented treatment for the reversal of erectile dysfunction with a 97% success rate. And here are your hosts, Tim Sawyer and Melissa Vinci.
Hey everyone, my name is Tim Sawyer, and I've got my co-host with us today, Melissa Vinci. Let's go. So we're excited. This is our fourth episode of Better Mojo, Better Life. In our last episode, we had a lot of fun with Jeff Newsiard, who is the founder and inventor of the ED treatment, RegenMax. Super, great listen. We highly encourage you all to give it a spin. Today, we've got a wonderful lineup for you guys. Great guest, Dr. Robert Marshall is an anti-aging, or as he just corrected me, a healthy aging proponent and expert with decades of experience. He's also an expert in men's health. With us, we also have Christina Imes, who's got a really interesting perspective on the conversation that we have today. She actually, a long time ago, owned her own yoga studio. She's been a wellness person for a long time, and most recently sold her highly successful medical spa, Med Spa Rejuvenate, to private equity. So not only is she a savvy operator, she's a smart business gal who embraces wellness. You all know Melissa. Melissa is the CEO of Pellecome. This podcast is brought to you by Pellecome and also RegenMax as the primary sponsor. So we're grateful to both of them for their sponsorship. And today we have a really neat lineup of topics to discuss, and we've got the perfect people to have those discussions. And I want to make sure I get this right. Christina is the managing partner of True Mill Medical. As I mentioned, Christina's background is in wellness and aesthetics. There are a few things we want to discuss today, starting with a recent article, and I think our listeners are going to really enjoy this conversation. A recent article that connects accelerated aging with early onset of age-related illnesses, including cancer, which can be scary. So we're going to talk about what we can do about that. That's obviously really important. We want to talk about Oprah's big night on network television, coming out and essentially saying, hey, you know, I'm done with the roller coaster of Weight Watchers, and not to bash Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is amazing, but Weight Watchers or fad diets and up and down her whole life. And she said that she's embraced this new group of medications that we're going to talk about today, what these medications are, what they were originally intended for, the explosion in popularity. Are they safe? And so I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion, and then tie the two together, right? Obesity obviously impacts how we age in a very negative way, and the article talks about that. So without further ado, what I want to start with, Dr. Marshall, is just introduce yourself to our listeners, a little bit about your background, the neat fellowship that you did, and how you got involved, where the passion came from for anti-aging or healthy aging.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Bob Marshall, and my passion is healthy aging. In fact, my reason to go to medical school was because I was fascinated by the difference between pathological and physiological aging. Pathological aging is one type of aging where bad things happen. You lose muscle mass, you lose mental acuity, you lose sleep quality, you lose sexual possibilities, you lose motivation. It's not a pretty sight. Physiological aging is just a number. You could be 50, 60, 70, 80. It's just a number. But if you maintain and improve those things that I'm talking about, then that's successful. Now, why do some people have pathological aging and some people have more physiological aging? Well, let's start with what is aging. Aging is a process that you go through as you get older. Your body wants you to make babies. Nature wants you to make babies. But once you get past the age of reproduction, say 50 years old or so, nature doesn't give a damn about you anymore. Nature wants to write you off. Nature wants you to go away. And nature has a good plan to do that. It's called the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. Basically, nature's going to make you fall apart. And as you fall apart, you have all these symptoms that gather and ruin your quality of life. Now, this is nature's plan, but I tell nature, forget about it. I've got a better plan. I'm going to take charge of this time and make my life better. And this is what we could do. Now, I trained at the University of Illinois as a medical student, and then I did a fellowship in geriatric medicine, which is the medicine for older people. I then did a fellowship at the University of Arizona under Andy Weil, the Harvard guru, who basically was a early proponent of alternative and holistic approaches to health. He talked about what it means to be healthy and what it means to do it well. We also had Tiana Old Dog there, an American Indian, who taught me all about the natural ways to heal yourself. So it got my attention. It motivated me, and I've been in that field ever since. I've taken care of people, adults of all ages. I did this as an emergency room doctor, and I saw all kinds of pathology. It's amazing what people end up doing to themselves without thinking about it. And I've also done it as a person who did home visits to help people stay in their homes and not go to a nursing home.
Got it.
And I've also done it in my clinic of True Male, where I help men live better and live longer. Now, it's no secret to know that these things there's no secrets that as far as what works. The biggest question is, why don't people do it? And it's curious because some people are naturally drawn to it, and some people just have all kinds of denial about what's happening to them and about what they should be doing.
I think what we have to look at, though, is when you said, well, people know what to do. I might push back on that a little bit and say, okay. I don't think most people know what to do. My own personal experience, right?
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Being 265 pounds at 45 years old, working like a freak and not knowing what to do until a really cool doctor, Dr. Michael Bedex, said, hey, you're really fat, dude, and you look like crap. You might want to look at that. So I was able to start taking testosterone and losing some weight. So I think a lot of people, part of it is information. They don't know what to do. I agree that there's a compliance issue once you know what to do. But one of the things, and I'm so happy we're finally using video as well as audio, because people can see how great you look. And so at what point in life did you say, these are the things that I need to do for me personally? And like, what's your kind of little, I think they are secrets. What are your secrets? Is it a multivitamin? Is it running 80 miles a day? Or like, what do you do to maintain your physicality and your appearance as you age?
Okay, good question. Let me start by saying, how was I motivated? I was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and I lost about half of my flight class. These were young guys. They were amazing guys. And they died at a very young age. And I decided at that point in my life that I was going to live my life to the fullest.
Amen.
Because they couldn't. And that's been my mantra ever since. Now, how did I come to where I am now? Well, I was a chemical engineer. I started my own manufacturing company. I traveled quite a bit, and I started noticing things. I noticed the people that I worked with seemed to be getting older, and for no good reason. I think a lot of it was stress, and stress does kill.
Yeah.
but they couldn't manage stress. And I think that they lost motivation. They didn't have a purpose in their life. And I think that they lost hope. And that's a very important part of being healthy. And I think they lost their way and ended up drinking too much, eating too much, not exercising enough, not taking care of their relationships. All these things ended up putting them in a very bad place. And it's sad to say that this happens quite often. The good news is you don't have to go that route. And my motivation is to help people realize that the possibilities as you get older are actually better. As you get older, your kids start growing up, you've got more money, you've got more time, and you've got more experience.
Yeah.
You have the world in your hands. All you got to do is take advantage of it. Instead of just saying, well, the end is near. Well, the end might be near, but in the meantime, life goes on, and life can be the best you can have as you get older.
I think that's a great take on life. A lot of it is psychological. And along those lines, Melissa, so as a CEO of Pellecome and someone who's supporting these doctors, providers like Dr. Marshall, what are some of the tools, the important tools? So so if a doctor listens to this and says, you know what, I love that guy, I want to do that. How does Pellecome help that guy connect the dots from, I really want to do this, to what do I need in my toolkit? What's the process and the training and support that Pellecome provides to make that happen for doctors like Dr. Marshall?
Well, I really want to start going back a little bit of what Dr. Marshall said when he talked about stress, because we're seeing that as a huge factor in not only weight loss, gut health, inflammation. We're talking about all these different things that, if you want to be healthy, you have to have a healthy gut. You have to control your A1C level. And a lot of that is stress related. I mean, I see that, if my stress starts, increasing, I could see, a difference in my gut health and things like that. So as Pellecome, we launched, we were seeing this trend a lot sooner than most people were. We launched Pellecome Fit back in 2019, and Pellecome Fit really was centered around peptides, BHRT, weight loss, and naltrexone. And naltrexone is a weight loss pellet that was very popular in the last couple of years for us. It's gotten less popular because of all the different weight loss drugs that have come out, and we're going to talk about that, like you said, later on with Oprah's TV show. And so I'll reserve my comments on that one. But we saw this trend a long time ago, about gut health and how it relates. And we're actually concentrating this month on stress and cortisol and how that affects anti-aging. And you'll see that a lot with all of our social media posts that are be coming out. And that's one of the things that we're going to be stressing a lot in this month. But really, I think it comes down to, Dr. Marshall has such a strong background and such a great education in this field, but there's so many healthcare providers that do not.
Yep.
So Pellecome provides all that training for them. So when you sign on to be a Pellecome doctor, we are going to be spending a lot of time with you training you on BHRT, anti-aging, the peptides, and supplementation. So, we really want people to be off pharmaceutical drugs and be getting really all natural supplements that can help them with all the different aspects of their life. And I think that there's so many physicians that aren't trained well and don't have the correct background. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to educate them so that they can go out and help their patient base live better, happier lives, really.
Yeah. And I think, what's interesting is I saw, and Christina, want to talk to you about this, is I saw a webinar that we had done, participated webinar that we had done at TrueMail. And what was interesting is that the number of guys who signed up, it was just targeted to men, the number of guys who signed up to attend a webinar on a Tuesday night at 6:30 to listen and get information. And we're finding this more and more in our marketing and in the texting that we do. Guys are way more interested in information than they are discounts, than they are free. They want to know, is this guy a doctor or a gal a doctor? What do they know? And what can I learn from them? And so there is this movement, I think, for guys to learn more. And that's why supporting the providers is really the whole thing, which leads to the business side of it, Christina, as someone who's seen the aesthetic component of this, right? Where you had an explosion in aesthetics. And I think what's interesting is our obsession for decades, particularly amongst women, with making ourselves look better from the outside in, right? We put anything on our face, anything on our body. We'll use lasers, knives. And it's just recently that we've thought about using lasers to treat men in different ways, right? So what are the correlations that you see between, I want to use healthy aging. I got to get away from anti-aging. Dr. Marshall gave me a good tip on that. So healthy aging, and do you think we'll get it to a place that there's the same level of obsession and passion for getting the inside right that we have with getting the outside right?
Well, one thing I can say is, sort of going back to what Melissa was talking about, with a lot of doctors getting involved in this market right now, this functional medicine, specifically, what we're talking about, the male sexual market, and a lot of these physicians not being trained. I will tell you that this is exactly what was going on in the world of aesthetics, in the med spa world. And this is what happens with cash-based elective medicine. Everybody wants in, right? And same thing that happened in the world of aesthetics with private equity coming in. And I mean, everybody is doing aesthetics, chiropractors, dentists, family practice. They go to a weekend, class, they take a 24-hour Botox training, and oh my God, look at us. Now we're offering, Botox. So I absolutely believe, the same thing is going to happen in this market. What's going to happen really is the world of aesthetics is going to start dictating functional medicine, because again, it's so competitive there. They are all of these providers, these med spas, these dentists, these chiros, they're all looking for additional revenue streams. And this is it, right? So everybody was focused on looking amazing. Now we're all thinking, oh my God, especially with social media and TikTok and, Facebook Reels. And, I mean, who knew like 20 years ago what a telomere is, like now right. You talk about metformin and, oh my God, you extend your telomeres. So it's a very exciting time, but I would also say, to patients and quote buyers, buyer beware in this market, and you better make sure you are coming to a practice similar to ours and, encountering someone like Dr. Marshall, who, as Melissa mentioned, and as Tim, you mentioned, is incredibly trained in this field. So.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time. And it is an exciting time, right? And if you think about going back to our original conversation around this article, I'm looking at this and I'm curious to hear your take on some of these other stats, Dr. Marshall. So they analyzed call it 150,000 people, estimating each person's biological age using 9 biomarkers. Those with a higher biological age had a 42% increased risk of early onset lung cancer, 22% more, we talked about that, gastrointestinal, and developing diseases such as diabetes, heart attack, and stroke. So their clock is in essence ticking faster, and obesity plays a major role in that. So the question that I have is, do you think there'll be an acceptance? So we accepted the aesthetic space as, Not sure all this stuff is fully researched, but hey, if I get a chance of getting better, it would seem to me the allure of getting into this space that would be pretty strong if people say, hey, healthy aging isn't just looking better, so we all look handsome and more beautiful on the, it actually could prevent you from things like early onset cardiovascular issues and early on. Do you think we're ready to accept that as at least in the US as a country to say, and Melissa and Bob, Dr. Marshall both mentioned this, would people accept, hey, if you eat better, if you keep your weight down, if you exercise a little bit, you actually could live longer, avoid getting cancer, and those are good things. Do you think we'll ever get to that place?
Well, that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's where we want to be. Let's take obesity as a good example. Something we can measure with BMI and percent body fat and come up with some real good statistics, and they've done it. We know, for example, with prostate cancer, the fatter you are, the more likely you're going to get prostate cancer. Simple as that.
Right.
Why is that? Well, there's multiple reasons for that, but it is a fact. Same thing with obesity and heart disease. It's a prime cause of heart disease.
Right.
It's an inflammatory state, and inflammatory states are terrible for your body. They cause your body to not be able to function in a good manner. For example, your natural killer cells that kill cancer cells aren't functioning very well when you're inflammatory. The other this white cells become overactive, and it just exacerbates it. It increases cardiovascular disease and vascular disease in general. So yes, these things are treatable and preventable. And the advantage of taking care of that is longer life and a better life. So it's not going to happen immediately, but you need to get started. You need to make a decision that I'm going to live the best life I can. And I'm going to get some knowledge about what that means. And then I'm going to make some changes to get to where I want to be. And then I'm going to adjust as I go along and keep working on it. It's a fascinating area and one that is, full of possibilities. Yeah. So Christina mentioned telomeres, for example. Telomeres are the ends of your DNA strands. And once you start losing all your telomeres, because each time your DNA replicates, it tears off little ends, the TA repeats. And once you lose all that, then when the DNA replicates, you lose some of the coding DNA. Yeah. And your cells turn senescent and they die, and you need these cells. So it's understanding all these aspects of healthy aging. It's complicated, and yet it's very simple.
We have to get the message out. Now, question out to everyone.
Eat your fruits and vegetables.
Do we think, hold on. So do we think along the lines of obesity, do we think Oprah's big moment, for those of you who didn't see it, Oprah came out on national television, actually divested her interest in Weight Watchers because Weight Watchers actually offers these medications now. And she didn't want the appearance of impropriety. Oprah came out and said, I'm done. I yo-yoed. I'm sick of the shame. I'm sick of there is this new classification of medications and I'm on them and I'm doing great. And basically America should accept that. And let's help these become, mainstream.
So Tim, before we jump into that, I kind of want to comment a little bit on Dr. Marshall, because I know that at Pellecome and all of our providers, they're seeing a big spike. And if you just look at the male population right now, I think generally first the male population and was basically looking at BHRT or testosterone therapy for muscle mass or sexual vitality. They were looking at that solely for that reason. They didn't really understand that BHRT and getting testosterone pellets would help them with cardiovascular, would help them with their A1C levels, and would help them prevent them having strokes. So I think that there is a big trend. Most people know I'm getting a divorce, and I've been dating quite often, a lot.
Good for
Talking
you.
to a
Hey.
lot of men out there. So it's been fun and
Let
also
it out.
educational. Listen, everybody knows, but it's been really educational because you're talking about, so many guys are all like, oh, I want to be healthy, I want to be fit, but they really don't even know how to get there. They don't even know the right supplements to take. They just think, okay, I'm going to run to the gym, and I'm going to work out, and and that's going to solve all my problems. And it really doesn't solve all their problems, because they might think, okay, I look great on the outside because I have all this muscle mass, but then they're struggling inside. And I'm sure you guys are seeing that in your clinic as well, and kind of the trend all of a sudden, like when you say guys are not worried about the discounts like women are, they really want to educate themselves. And I'm seeing that so much, being on the East Coast and in the metropolitan area, that's the trend with the men. They really want to figure out, okay,
Yeah.
I really need to, stop drinking as much or eating as many French fries as I do, because, I want to look good on the outside, but I also need to figure out my inside. And so many of them are on different kinds of medications, and they need to get off the medication. So you guys seeing that as well, that kind of trend, and that will lead us into, obviously the discussion about obesity with Oprah, because, that leads to them losing weight and that whole trend as well.
Well, I can tie those together pretty quick because, like I said, I was at the worst. I was 265 pounds. I'm 6'1". That's not good. My blood pressure was 150 over 110, and consistently 150 over 110, which is like emergency room stuff. And so I started taking hormones, not because of, given my age, I wasn't at a place where I was like, oh, I need more sex drive or that. I really didn't even fully understand or appreciate, other than the doctor telling me, this is going to help you sleep better. It's going to help you in many ways. So I was able to lose weight, which is great. And then I got to 240. But the bigger point is, I did tirzepatide. I've been on tirzepatide for 6 months. This is the full disclosure episode. So I love it. I went from 240 to 205, 208, depending on the day. But what I didn't expect was my blood pressure to go from 150 over 110 to 125 over 75 consistently. So I was on 2 blood pressure meds. I dropped one of them. I was on a drug called Aprezo because I have ulcerative colitis my whole life, right? Done. My waste management system has never functioned better in my entire, I'm talking about going back to college, my entire life. Never saw that coming. And now that we're being fully transparent, been taking an antidepressant medication for 30 years. And I just started toying with in the last month, because I'm exercising more, thinking more clearly, that for the first time in my adult life, I'm actually going to get off that medication too. So think about what I'm cutting out. And it was totally unintended. I didn't think about that. I just went into it saying, yeah, I know I need to lose weight and understand these medications. So that's my journey, which brings us up to the last segment of our conversation, which this classification of drugs, Dr. Marshall and Melissa would know. People are wondering, it's crazy, right? Costco is now announcing that they're going to be selling these drugs. What are these drugs? And anybody who wants to have the answer, what are these drugs? What were the origin of these medications? Are they safe? Are they FDA approved? What's the real story there?
Well, as far as safety, go ahead, Melissa, go ahead.
No, I want you to answer that one, and then I'll jump in after you.
Okay, as far as safety goes, there are some caveats that we have to address before we start anyone on that medication. One of them is that you can't have any type of thyroid cancer history or risk, family history. Second thing, you should not have a history of pancreatitis. That's also a knockout. You should not have a history of bulimia or other eating disorders. And you should always have the ability to defecate, to have a bowel movement. So those things, once we review the blood tests and the history, and if you're still a good candidate, then we talk about what the expectations would be for these drugs. They were developed for diabetes. They're a very good diabetes drug, but what was in it as an adjunct, not as a primary diabetes drug, but they helped reduce the rapid absorption of glucose, which is what diabetes is about, is too high of glucose in the bloodstream.
Okay.
So, but they found out when people started taking it, they started losing weight, which made their diabetes get better also. So it was kind of like a serendipity effect. And then they started off-label testing this drug on people with problems losing weight that tried everything, every diet, every drug, nothing worked, and this medicine worked. Now, there are some things about the side effects that you need to understand and anticipate, and you will find out that once you start the medicine, you're not as hungry as you were. You'll put a full plate in front of yourself. You get halfway finished with the plate. You know what? I'm done. I'm not hungry. And that's the beauty of it. It basically just makes you behave properly because you eat less. And so that's how it works.
Got it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Melissa. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I will, these drugs just came, I think, so popular in the last year, but really, as they've been out, we started working with them in 2022, and we started working with compounding pharmacies. These medications have been on the short list, the FDA short list, for a very long time, and some of the top compounding pharmacies in the country came out with
What does
their
that mean, Melissa, that they've been on a short list?
So the manufacturers haven't been able to produce the need that's out there. So the FDA puts them on the short list, and then a compounding pharmacy is able to go out and replicate that specific drug to that formulation. So we've been, selling that, and it's patient specific. To that, the patient obviously needs to go to a reputable doctor, and I really say that, strongly, because you have to have these people, getting counseled. You have to have a good intake. They have to have blood work done. You can't just say, oh, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds and I'm going to go on tirzepatide. It's really not the way it should be done, and a lot of people are using it that way and abusing it, I feel. If back in 2022, when it first came out, everybody knows I'm a proponent. I'll stick myself with anything. I really like to see how things react, because then I want to be able to, when we're training doctors and we're talking to them, I want to have firsthand knowledge. So back in 2022, I took a teeny amount of tirzepatide. When I say, a very, very small amount, everybody knows I probably weighed 95 pounds soaking wet. So I really couldn't take a lot of it, because I really didn't want to lose weight, but I really wanted to feel what it would feel to take some of these drugs. So I did take tirzepatide, and just like Dr. Marshall's saying, you really don't, it cuts back in your cravings of eating, not only food, but alcohol. I would take a sip of alcohol, and then I'd push my drink aside and I was done with it. So mind you, I only stayed on it for a couple of weeks just because I wanted to get that full effect, see a full effect of it. Probably didn't get the full effect of most people would get it. And there are some little side effects that, you might get constipated after a while. There's a couple of things that happen. But there's, natural supplements for that. Pellecome sells what we call Gastro Mover. It's a natural aloe supplement that most people will take when they're on it. But people have to be really careful on it, because they will also lose not only fat, they'll lose muscle mass. And that's one of the things that we're really trying to stress in Pellecome Fit, to do it correctly, to make sure that you are on one of these peptides, because that's really what they are. They're peptides, but you're doing it correctly. You're eating correctly. You're eating the right amount of food, because you're going to be eating a lot less. So you have to make sure what you're eating is the proper foods, and making sure that you're working out correctly, because you could actually overwork out on them and even lose even more muscle mass. So we've, partnered with one of our guests, Delvette Quince, who was on our first episode, to really also help our HCPs and, get that message across and how they should be actually working out so that they're losing fat, they're not losing muscle mass, and they're improving, like you said, they're improving their A1C level. They're able to get out, eat healthier, live like better lives. A lot a lot of stress. You know, when somebody's overweight, their body is so stressed. Just think of somebody who's 100, 150 pounds going out and walking 8 miles. They probably can't do it, but their bodies really will be so stressed from it. Will, you know, as opposed to somebody who's a lot fitter who can go out there and do that. That's, you know, the goal at Pellecome Fit is really for them to lose weight, be healthier, and be able to get out and exercise, because that's where that, you know, healthy aging comes in, you
Right.
know, and helps you with Alzheimer's and dementia and anything else that, you know, you're looking at. Even I would say, going back to that study you were talking about on cancer, people aren't getting outside enough and actually working out and exercising and feeling. Just think of how much better you feel after you're outside working out, whether it's a hike, it's a walk, taking your dog for a walk. Everybody feels so much better. Mental clarity as well. You know what I mean? It's for your mental clarity. So I think that these weight loss drugs really help those people achieve that. And I think because of that, I'm a huge proponent of them, but I also am a proponent of making sure that these people are going to a doctor who's really dosing them correctly and looking at their whole body
Yeah.
holistically and not just one aspect of it.
And Christina, I was coming from the aesthetics background. It feels like everybody is now offering these medications. And so every med spa owner, is
Yeah,
offering these medications.
everyone. Mhm.
And is that going to, what's the impact of that going to be? Because I would think people just get confused at this point, right?
Well, I mean, I would imagine people are very confused. I was actually going to chime in and say we should really maybe explain to listeners, what we're talking about. So, the pharmaceutical name brand of these drugs are Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro, right?
Correct.
So a lot of people are confused. There's so many names for them. So you go to your doctor and you are obese, you are going to most likely get this covered from your insurance. But you gotta qualify, right? You gotta be obese and probably diabetic, and they're gonna say, okay, we're gonna put you on Wegovy for weight loss. You come to our clinic, and your BMI is high, you're obese, but for whatever reason, let's say, you don't want to go to your doctor, you don't have insurance, whatever it may be, you are going to get the same medications, but they're from a compounding pharmacy, as Melissa mentioned, right? So they're compounded, same formulas. So semaglutide is the compounded, I mean, maybe a fun or easier way to look at it would be like a generic form of it. Semaglutide is Wegovy or Ozempic, and tirzepatide is Mounjaro. And going back to, confusing, or once again, being very cautious to where you are going for these meds. Everybody's doing it. I talked to one of my friends who owns a med spa. She said half of their revenue these days is from weight loss drugs. A lot of med spas don't even have MDs connected to them. I mean, still the world of medical spas is very cowboyish. It's like the Wild West still. So once again, I can't stress it enough, buyer beware, make sure you know where you're going, it's reputable. And also, as Melissa mentioned, you got to be careful, right? If you're trying to lose 5 pounds, these drugs are not for you. So.
Got it. Well, I think that's a good place to slow down. So the reality is this, I think my take on it, Oprah's amazing, probably did the world a favor. And now it's up to us to rein that conversation in and direct the right people to the right places on the right medications at the right time. And if we can do that, the world's going to be a better place. And, conversation for another day would be, do we see a world where where we tie obesity to all these events that we're talking about, and then the world goes, you know what, we'll just cover these for everybody? I don't see that, because the retail cost, I've researched it for Ozempic, if to go buy Ozempic, if you walked into a drugstore and said, I want to buy Ozempic without a prescription, would be between $1,500 and $2,200, $2,200 a month. No one, I don't care who you are, people can't afford that, right? So it'll be interesting to see if prices come down, if they get covered by insurance. But all these things are exciting times. And I was so pumped to have this conversation. And I love being around Dr. Marshall and Christina. I always have fun with Melissa. And Dr. Marshall, your take on this stuff is great. And we've got to find a way to get you in front of more people. Because, and I mean that on the provider side, maybe Pellecome, we can do something as we go down the road. But you have a lot of intellectual property wisdom in this space that I feel could be lost if we don't focus on capturing that, right? And I know you do a lot with mentoring young people, certainly in the True Male Clinic. And I think all that is very good. So as we wind down, this is Christina's big chance. What's going on with True Male? What can we expect from True Male Medical over the next 6 months? What do we got?
Oh, it is, again, very exciting times. We're actually moving our current location from Oak Brook. I don't have the exact address yet to where we're moving, but to a space that's triple the size of our current office space. So our staff is incredibly excited about that because they'll have lots of room. We are opening a second location in Wisconsin. It's actually Delavan, which is near Lake Geneva for people who are familiar with that area. So that's also very fun. Maybe talking about Rhode Island at some point.
I know somebody there.
I know a couple people there. We're also doing our, talking about getting Dr. Marshall out more into the, public and speaking, but we're about to do our second webinar series with Dr. Marshall as well. And I believe Jeff Newsyard from Texas. So yeah, very, very
good for
fun.
You. And you've got something coming out soon, Dr. Marshall, right?
Yes, I do. I have a new book. It should be released this summer. It's called It's the Fourth Quarter. It's Winning Time. And it's about changing the mindset about getting older and looking at the opportunity that it is. And it talks about things like gratitude and about having a purpose, about, use it or lose it, about proper diet, how that you are what you eat. So it addresses all the different subjects. It puts them all together in a way that you can come up with a plan for yourself to live the best fourth quarter of your life.
Amen.
Oh, I love that, Dr. Marshall.
Yeah.
I'll live by that. Yeah, I'll definitely live by that because I think, and I think that is going to resonate with so many people because I think, when we talk about people who are empty nesters and adjusting to that life, that a lot of people think of it as a negative. And I'm recently an empty nester. Both my girls haven't graduated college and are living, on their own. And, it is an adjustment, but you have to embrace the adjustment. You know what I mean? I have to say like, oh my goodness, I have this freedom that I never had before. And I am going to live my best life. And I have, another 50 years to live. And how am I going to do that? And how am I going to stay healthy so that when I want to go, travel, to all different parts of the world, that I'm healthy enough to do that. And I want to do that as long as possible. So that sounds like the most amazing book I've heard, recently, because I think you're hitting such a huge target market there of people that really do need to embrace that and get.
Let me tell you what my philosophy is, because I was an ER doctor for a long time and I saw a lot of people die in my presence. And when I talked to them, they would oftentimes tell me what they regretted. And always, they didn't regret what they did. They regretted what they didn't do.
Yeah.
So as you get older, trust me, you want to do something, do it, because this is it. This is the fourth quarter. You got to go ahead and go for it. And if you fall flat on your face, so what? At least you tried. And, the process of trying is living.
No, and I agree with that. Like my sister said to me, it was probably January, she said, you know what, the Northern Lights are supposed to be amazing in 2024. Let's go to Iceland. And within a week, we had a trip, going to Iceland. Now, it would have been something that I would have never thought of doing a year ago. But now that I'm in, embracing my new freedom and being an empty nester and being able to adjust my schedule to do whatever I want, it's doing exactly what you're saying, Dr. Marshall, is taking that, embracing it, and saying, I'm going to do the things that I've always had on my bucket list, and I'm not going to wait.
Good for you. That's great.
Powerful stuff, and profound. And as I always like to say, this is the absolute application of profound knowledge. And profound knowledge is what we know in advance, we prepare for it in advance. And if you're heading into the fourth quarter, if we can get people educated on, guys, this is what you need, and gals, this is what you need to do to play like Tom Brady. That's my bias in the fourth quarter. The more information we can get out like that, I think is really amazing. And so as we wind down, Melissa, what do we got coming from Pellecome these next few months? Speaking of trainings, do we have any training set up?
We do. We have a training in California, Newport Beach on April 27th. So that is almost full. So we can, get a couple more HCPs into that. So that'd be great. And then we flip over to the East Coast on June 8th. And we have in Melbourne, Florida, we have our training there as well. And then I just encourage everybody to really follow us on social media, because we have a lot of exciting things coming out, and with Delvet Quince, and a lot of stuff with Pellecome Fit. So talking about managing your stress, your weight, your gut health.
And for those who don't know, Delvet Quince was one of these celebrity trainers on the hit TV show The Biggest Loser. And so no one knows more about this stuff than him, and particularly as it relates to motivating folks who are in stressful situations, right? Whether it's health or particularly with weight. So really cool guy to follow. We appreciate that. Christina at True Male Medical, right? That's Instagram, truemalemedical.com. Get everybody over there to check you out. Register for the webinar we have coming up with Jeff and Dr. Marshall, which will be really cool. And then we encourage, first of all, I want to say thank you guys, Dr. Marshall. This is really inspirational. I knew it was going to be, so I'm not surprised at all. Christina, as always, your practical knowledge and wisdom in the space, people need to hear it, right? And it's empowering, I think, for women to see someone like you in terms of your success, your aptitude, and what you've been able to accomplish on your own. It's pretty incredible.
Thank you.
Kudos to you for that. I love you as always. We look forward to more dating stories for those of you who are listening, stay tuned on episode 5 for Melissa Goes on a Date.
Oh boy, look out.
And reminder to everyone that this is brought to you by Pellecome and RegenMax. And we encourage you to continue to listen. And as always, we are grateful to you all. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Better Mojo, Better Life with Melissa and Tim, sponsored by Pellecome, the #1 solution for better living through science, and RegenMax, the only globally patented solution for the reversal of erectile dysfunction. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and invite you to download the podcast to stay connected with exciting new content. To leave a comment or ask a question, you can email us at tim@swcofusa.com.